In terms of individual instructions, a lot of things has been removed. You have 4 instructions you can apply. One of my favorite is actually deep line. Now, defensive explains itself. Ideally, usually we use that on a fullback, defensive midfielder. Anyway, offensive, I like the fact that you cannot spam these instructions. Like you cannot use offensive on a striker. Ideally, it's a balance or attacking midfielder. You want them to stay up. It's kind of different from counter target. So offensive, ideally, in my opinion, I like to use it on my attacking midfield or my most creative player in terms of technique and speed in a way. Maybe not the creator, or depending on your formation, you want to have somebody with good passing and dribbling behind your striker. So that's what offensive is. Anchoring obviously prevents the player from going sideways. Stay central. I tried to use of my 2 center back to prevent, because a lot of formations I use, I want to be more compact. So I experimented using anchoring on 2 center backs. It messes up. You know, I mean, it works very, very well, but a lot of times, if you mess up your defensive shape, it really messes you up. So it just depends, because usually I don't do stuff like that if I know my opposition's manager is flexible, like, you know, players switch positions often. We don't have those details right now. So use that carefully. Ideally, use it maybe on your defensive midfielder if you want him to stay central. But if you use an anchor man, you may not need that. People most of the time use it on their striker. Like if I have a big striker, I want him to stay central. I don't want him to go wide. And you have 2 options. Obviously, you can use defense, offense, anchoring on 2 players. You set it up, and that's it. Now, of course, we have counter target, usually on strikers only. A player basically stays forward, doesn't come back. Ideally, it's good for players who doesn't have high stamina. Deep line is one of my favorite. I swear to you, when you use deep line on a defensive midfielder, just make sure he's fast. Like I've even used it on Pep. Sometimes Pep runs like Mbappe. I don't understand. Like even Vlahovic's acceleration 75, he was sprinting like Mbappe. I swear. This is one of those games. Could be. This is a dream team mode. So I do like the deep defensive line. Like I even used defense and deep defensive line on a DMF. I don't think necessarily you need both, but in my opinion, deep line it's a must to use on your defensive midfielder. You're basically adding a extra center back. Disadvantage, do not try to do too much offside traps, because he's going to end up like beside your goalkeeper most of the time. Many times I go countered, defense is not there. Boom, defensive midfielder with deep line catching the striker. So I like that one. Now the difference between tight marking and marking, Ken explains it there. I will never man mark or tight mark against opponent who plays fast and aggressive. Personal preference. Tight marking, a random player of yours will mark a particular player, right? You don't choose which player to mark. Like you don't select any player of yours to mark the opposition. You can choose, let's say opposition has Ronaldo. If you use tight marking, one of your players, depending where he is, if Ronaldo's on a flank, your fullback will mark him and so on. But man marking, you choose an individual player of yours to mark that. And I think it explains it anyway. Yo, Safu, appreciate the 73 months support, man. We're about to finish with this. We're going to go play soon. And that is pretty much is about your instructions as well, dude. And as I said, I do like there are certain things you can use it on any player. Like you can use offensive on strikers. Now, remember, well, we're now in April right now. Probably if you watch this in the future on YouTube, a lot of things could be changed. I will update what's effective, what's not. But this is pretty much a little bit of a basic to advance in a way.